Trump panics as World Cup disaster unfolds. Before the ball was ever kicked, the World Cup was supposed to be a celebration. It was supposed to be the grandest stage in football, the one place where politics takes a back seat and the world gathers around one simple language, the beautiful game. But instead, as the tournament unfolds on American soil, one question keeps getting louder. Is this still a World Cup, or has it become another stage for Donald Trump's politics, ego, and chaos? The controversy did not begin with a missed penalty, a bad referee call, or a shocking upset. It began with borders, visas, security checks, travel bans, and political pressure. The uploaded source material frames the central issue as a tournament already overshadowed by icy fears, visa chaos, travel bans, and the claim that even a FIFA-approved referee was blocked from entering the United States. This is no longer just a sports story. It is a story about what happens when the world's biggest tournament collides with one of the most divisive political brands on earth. And now the problem has gone from bad optics to questions about competitive fairness. Because when one team says the host nation's restrictions are affecting how they recover, how they travel, how they prepare, and how they compete, then the issue is no longer symbolic. It becomes practical. It becomes physical. It becomes the difference between a team entering the next match rested and focused, or exhausted and disrupted before the whistle even blows. That is why the situation surrounding Iran has become so explosive. After Iran played New Zealand in Los Angeles and earned a dramatic 2-2 draw, reports said the team was ordered to leave the United States almost immediately and return to its training base in Tijuana, Mexico. The Associated Press reported that Iran's coach criticized the abrupt departure because it disrupted recovery, while U.S. officials pushed back and said the arrangement had been understood in advance. Either way, the image was devastating. A World Cup team plays in America, then has to get out before it can even properly recover. Now think about what that means inside a tournament. Other teams get to finish the match, cool down, meet the press, sleep, recover, treat injuries, study film, and prepare normally. But if one team has to leave the country right away because of diplomatic tension, immigration restrictions, or security conditions, then they are not playing under the same practical conditions as everyone else. And in elite football, the margins are tiny. One lost night of recovery can become one heavy leg. One heavy leg can become one late tackle. One late tackle can become one goal conceded. This is why the story is bigger than Iran alone. It is about whether the host country can separate politics from tournament operations. It is about whether FIFA can guarantee equal treatment when teams come from countries that Washington has tense relations with. It is about whether a World Cup hosted in the United States can truly welcome the world when the political environment around it is built on suspicion, restriction, and border confrontation. And this is where Donald Trump becomes impossible to ignore, because Trump does not simply exist in the background of this tournament. His administration's policies, his political style, and his obsession with spectacle have become part of the World Cup atmosphere itself. FIFA's own public material previously highlighted Trump's support for the tournament and the creation of a White House task force to oversee preparations for the Club World Cup and World Cup. So when things go wrong, the same spotlight that Trump wants for prestige also lands on the chaos. Supporters of Trump will say this is just security. They will say America has the right to control its borders, screen arrivals, and protect the country during a massive global event. And of course, every host nation has security responsibilities. No serious person denies that. But the problem begins when security starts looking selective, inconsistent, politically charged, or disruptive to the tournament itself. Because this is not a small local event. This is the World Cup. This is the one tournament where the host country is not merely hosting guests, it is hosting the planet. The world sends players, coaches, referees, staff, journalists, and fans into the host nation. with the understanding that the competition will be protected from political interference as much as possible. If that trust collapses, the tournament's credibility collapses with it. The case of Somali referee Omar Artan made those fears even louder. Reuters reported that Artan, who had been set to officiate at the 2026 World Cup, was denied entry to the United States despite holding a valid visa, and later received the UEFA Super Cup appointment after missing the tournament. The Guardian also reported that Artan had been expected to become the first Somali to officiate at a World Cup, but was refused entry at Miami Airport. For football fans, that is not just bureaucracy. That is someone's dream being stopped at the airport. Imagine dedicating your life to the game. Imagine working your way up from local pitches to continental competitions, proving yourself again and again until FIFA selects you for the biggest stage in world football. Then imagine landing in the host country, carrying your documents, your visa, your FIFA credentials, your career behind you, and still being told you cannot enter. That is not just a personal humiliation. It sends a message to every official, every player, and every nation watching. Your place at the World Cup may depend on politics beyond your control. And this is where FIFA's silence becomes dangerous. FIFA loves to speak about unity. FIFA loves slogans about bringing people together. FIFA loves ceremonies, flags, children walking with players, and speeches about the universal language of football. But when the political machinery of a host country starts affecting who can enter, who can officiate, who can rest, and who can recover, slogans are not enough. The world needs leadership. Instead, FIFA often appears comfortable standing next to power. And that brings us to the other controversy hanging over the tournament: Trump's reported role in the trophy presentation. talkSPORT reported that FIFA would not object to Trump taking part in the World Cup trophy ceremony in a way that could break usual expectations around the presentation. Other outlets similarly reported that Trump may be allowed to remain on stage with the winning team during celebrations. For many fans, that is exactly the nightmare. The final image of the World Cup becoming less about the champions and more about Trump. Because anyone who has watched Trump understands the pattern. He does not like standing beside the moment. He likes becoming the moment. He does not attend a spectacle quietly. He absorbs it, brands it, enlarges himself through it, and then makes the entire conversation revolve around him. A trophy ceremony is supposed to belong to the players, the captain, the nation, the fans, and the years of sacrifice behind that single lift. But with Trump involved, the fear is that the most replayed image will not be the winning captain, it will be Trump. And that is the real disaster FIFA should have seen coming. When you invite a political figure who thrives on spectacle into the emotional climax of the world's biggest sporting event, you are playing with fire. The World Cup trophy is not a campaign prop. It is not a brand accessory. It is not a photo opportunity for a president who wants to place himself at the center of history. It is the sacred symbol of football achievement. The tyranny is almost too perfect. On one side, teams and officials are dealing with immigration problems, visa uncertainty, travel disruptions, and questions of fairness. On the other side, Trump may be granted a privileged place in the most protected ceremonial moment in football. So ordinary participants face restriction, delay, and scrutiny, while the most powerful political figure gets elevated into the spotlight. That contrast is exactly why people are angry. And that anger is not just coming from political opponents. It is coming from fans who want football to remain football. People tune into the World Cup to feel something bigger than division. They want to see Brazil dance, Argentina suffer and survive, Ghana rise, Japan shock the world, Scotland sing, Morocco defend with heart, and underdogs create miracles. They do not tune in to watch the tournament become another chapter in America's domestic political drama. But Trump's America is not a quiet backdrop. It is loud. It is tense. It is suspicious. It turns immigration into performance, patriotism into branding, and global events into stages for personal power. That is why this World Cup was always going to be vulnerable. The tournament depends on openness, but Trump's politics depends on walls. The tournament depends on global celebration, but Trump's politics depends on enemies. The tournament depends on shared joy, but Trump's politics feeds on conflict, and that conflict is now visible in the tournament's rhythm. Teams are not just asking who they play next. They are asking how they get there, whether staff can enter, whether they can remain overnight, whether airport checks will delay them, whether political tensions will follow them from the border to the hotel to the training pitch. That is not the mental space elite athletes should be forced to occupy during a World Cup. A footballer preparing for Belgium, Egypt, Brazil, France, or Argentina should not have to wonder whether the host country's politics will interfere with recovery. A coach should not have to plan tactics around border restrictions. A referee should not have to wonder whether a valid visa is enough to reach the tournament. And fans should not have to ask whether the rules outside the stadium are shaping the outcome inside it. This is why the fairness issue matters so much. Some people hear travel disruption and think it is minor, but football is built on preparation. Recovery is preparation. Sleep is preparation. Hydration is preparation. Time zones are preparation. Medical treatment is preparation. Calm is preparation. When one team's preparation is repeatedly disrupted while another team enjoys normal conditions, the tournament is no longer equal in practice, even if the match rules are equal on paper. And FIFA knows this. That is why tournaments have strict regulations around training bases, match schedules, travel windows, official access, and team operations. The entire machinery of a World Cup exists to create a controlled environment where football can decide the result. But when external politics keeps pushing through the walls, football stops being the only force on the pitch. Now Trump's defenders will say the criticism is exaggerated. They will say every large event has complications. They will say the media is using the World Cup to attack Trump. They will say Iran is making excuses. They will say the referee case involves security concerns. They will say FIFA remains in charge. But none of those arguments erases the perception problem. And in global sport, perception is power. If fans believe the host country is not treating teams equally, trust declines. If players believe some nations are being burdened more than others, resentment grows. If officials believe their selection can be overridden by political restrictions, confidence weakens. And if the final ceremony becomes a Trump spectacle, many viewers will remember the tournament not for the football, but for the politics that swallowed it. That is the danger. Trump wanted the World Cup as a symbol of American greatness, but the tournament may become a symbol of American dysfunction. He wanted the images, the ceremonies, the applause, the world leaders, the cameras, the flags, and the feeling that the world had come to him. But what he may get instead is a global conversation about whether his politics made the tournament harder, uglier, and less fair. The World Cup exposes countries. It does not just show stadiums, it shows airports, borders, police, hotels, transport systems, media culture, political maturity, and national temperament. When Germany hosts, the world sees Germany's efficiency. When Brazil hosts, the world sees Brazil's passion and inequality. When Qatar hosted, the world saw wealth, control, and controversy. Now, with the United States under Trump, the world is seeing power, spectacle, restriction, and ego. And for Trump, that is personally dangerous because he understands television better than policy. He understands images. He understands the emotional power of being seen next to winners. He understands that the World Cup final is one of the most watched events on earth. That is why the trophy ceremony matters so much to him. It offers the perfect image. Trump standing with the champion, smiling next to the trophy, absorbing the glory of athletes who earned what he merely approached. But that image could backfire, because the more Trump inserts himself into the tournament, the more every logistical failure becomes his failure. Every visa controversy becomes his controversy. Every border complaint becomes his embarrassment. Every disruption becomes part of the story of Trump's World Cup. He cannot demand the spotlight and then complain when the spotlight reveals the mess. And that is where the panic begins. Not panic in the cartoon sense of someone running around screaming, but political panic, image panic, narrative panic. The realization that the event meant to display strength may instead display chaos. The realization that the world is not just watching the matches, it is watching how America treats the world. The realization that football fans are not interested in being drafted into Trump's personal theater. The most painful part is that the players deserve better. Iran's players deserve better, regardless of what anyone thinks about their government. New Zealand's players deserve better. Somali referee Omar Artan deserved better. Every team from every continent deserves a tournament where their work, not politics, defines their fate. Footballers are not diplomats. Referees are not foreign policy statements. Fans are not bargaining chips in a culture war. That distinction matters. Criticizing restrictions on a team is not the same as endorsing that team's government. Criticizing the treatment of an official is not the same as ignoring security concerns. Criticizing Trump's role in the ceremony is not the same as saying politicians can never attend sporting events. The issue is proportion. The issue is fairness. The issue is whether football is being respected or used. And right now, many fans feel it is being used by FIFA to maintain political relationships, used by Trump to polish his image, used by governments to send messages, used by media outlets to feed outrage, and somewhere beneath all that, the actual game fights to breathe. The chants are still there, the goals are still there, the flags are still there, but the shadow over the tournament keeps growing. This is what makes the World Cup so powerful and so fragile. It belongs to everyone, but it can't be captured by the powerful. It is global, but it depends on local authorities. It speaks the language of unity, but it often walks through the reality of borders. It promises fairness, but it takes place inside a world that is deeply unfair. And when the host country is politically inflamed, the contradictions become impossible to hide. The fans know it, the players feel it, the media is reporting it. And FIFA, whether it admits it or not, is now managing a credibility crisis. Because this is not only about one team leaving one city after one match. It is about a pattern. It is about the sense that the tournament is bending around Trump's America rather than standing above it. The World Cup should never feel like a privilege granted by a president. It should feel like a right earned through qualification. Once a team qualifies, the host duty is to host. Not selectively, not grudgingly, not with political theater attached. Host the team. Protect the team, respect the team, let the match decide the rest. That brings us back to the biggest question. What happens if the controversy gets worse? What if another team complains? What if another staff member is blocked? What if border delays affect a knockout match? What if a politically sensitive team advances deeper than expected? What if the final itself produces a winner? Trump does not want to celebrate. The tournament is still alive and every round increases the stakes. That is why FIFA's decision-making now matters more than ever. It must be transparent. It must explain what arrangements are being made for teams affected by immigration restrictions. It must clarify whether all qualified players, staff, officials, and referees can participate under equal conditions. It must stop hiding behind ceremony and start defending the integrity of the competition. Because silence will not calm this story. Silence will feed it. And Trump has a decision too. He can either respect the World Cup as something bigger than himself, or he can keep turning it into another Trump-branded spectacle. He can stand back and let the players own the moment, or he can step forward and prove his critics right. He can show the world that America is capable of hosting without dominating, or he can remind everyone why so many feared this tournament would become political theater. But based on history, nobody expects restraint. Trump's instinct is not to shrink from the camera. His instinct is to walk toward it. His instinct is to claim the moment, hold the pose, extend the applause, and turn the ceremony into proof of his centrality. That is why the reported trophy roll matters so much. It is not just a ceremonial detail, it is a warning sign. Because when the host president becomes too visible, the host nation stops feeling like a neutral stage. It starts feeling like a political arena. And for teams already facing travel restrictions, visa drama, and diplomatic tension, that visibility becomes even more uncomfortable. It tells them the tournament is not insulated from power. It tells them power is standing on the podium. This is the contradiction at the heart of Trump's World Cup disaster. He wants the prestige of hosting the world, but his politics are built on treating parts of the world with suspicion. He wants the glory of the final, but his administration's restrictions are creating stories of exclusion. He wants the trophy image, but the tournament's credibility depends on keeping the trophy sacred. He wants applause, but the louder story may become embarrassment. And the world is watching, not just Americans, not just political commentators. Football fans from Africa, Asia, Europe, South America, the Middle East, and beyond are watching. They are watching how teams are treated. They are watching how FIFA responds. They are watching whether America can handle the responsibility of hosting the planet without turning the event into a monument to one man. That is the deeper meaning of this moment. The World Cup is not just testing teams, it is testing the host. It is testing whether political power can remain humble in the presence of global sport. It is testing whether FIFA's promises of unity mean anything when confronted by real-world borders. It is testing whether the beautiful game can survive the ugly machinery around it. And maybe that is why this story feels so intense, because football at its best represents something Trumpism struggles with: shared humanity across difference. A World Cup crowd can contain rival nations, rival languages, rival religions, rival histories, and still explode together at a beautiful goal. Football can make strangers hug. It can make enemies respect each other. It can make a child in one country idolize a player from another. It can soften borders, even if only for 90 minutes. But Trump's politics hardens borders. It divides people into insiders and outsiders. It turns suspicion into identity. It treats global movement as threat before opportunity. So when that politics meets the World Cup, the collision is unavoidable. The tournament says, come together. The politics says, prove you belong. That is why the Iran situation matters beyond Iran. That is why Omar Artan's denied entry matters beyond one referee. That is why the trophy ceremony matters beyond one photo. Each controversy points to the same underlying tension. Can a global event truly thrive under a political culture obsessed with control, exclusion, and personal spectacle? The answer is still being written. The matches will continue. Goals will still be scored. Fans will still sing. Underdogs will still dream. Giants will still fall. But the shadow will remain unless FIFA and the host authorities actively protect the tournament's fairness. Not with slogans, not with press conferences, not with glossy videos, with actions. Teams need equal recovery conditions wherever possible. Officials need guaranteed access if FIFA has selected them, and security screening has been completed. Staff need clear visa pathways. Fans need confidence that they are welcome. And the final ceremony needs to belong to football, not to politics. Anything less will deepen the crisis. So when people say Trump panics as World Cup disaster unfolds, this is what they mean. The disaster is not just one headline. It is a chain reaction. It is the exposure of contradictions. It is the moment when a tournament built on unity becomes entangled with a political brand built on division. It is the moment when the image Trump wanted starts slipping out of his control. Because in the end, the World Cup does not belong to presidents. It does not belong to FIFA executives. It does not belong to billionaires, sponsors, border agents, or political consultants. It belongs to the players who run until their lungs burn. It belongs to the fans who save for years to attend one match. It belongs to the children watching at home, imagining themselves under those lights. It belongs to the game. And if Trump, FIFA, or any government forgets that, the world will remind them. Football fans can tolerate bad weather, bad traffic, and even bad refereeing. But they do not easily forgive anyone who makes the game feel unfair. They do not forgive anyone who steals the player's moment. They do not forgive anyone who turns the world's most beloved tournament into a personal stage. That is why this controversy is not going away. The World Cup is still unfolding, and every new match carries two competitions at once. On the pitch, nations battle for glory. Off the pitch, FIFA and Trump's America battle for credibility. One competition will produce a champion. The other will decide how history remembers this tournament. And right now, history is already taking notes.